and welcome to the third MMO Buff. Hopefully people weren't quite so deafened this week. Hopefully the pre-show ran a little better. But let's see who we have with us today. We have a Gazimov.
Hello there.
And joining a Gazimov, we also have a Pseudo.
Hey everybody.
So, without any further ado, let's have a quick walk through what's on the dinner table for tonight. And to answer the question I can see popping up in chat, as before, we are without a Kate. We're all mortified. We hope she carries on getting better, and we hope to see her very, very soon. But with that, let's have a walk through the news, the happenings, the events. Gazimovs, what's tickled your fancy this week?
Okay, so there are three items that I think are really worth pulling out this week. The first one is that BlizzCon tickets have gone on sale, which is going to be a big news for a lot of people, particularly those people who are interested in the latest happenings with, say, Diablo 3 Reaper of Souls or with Hearthstone. You can pick up the stream for $40 or £25, 25 of Her Majesty's finest English pounds. And that will also give you a load of virtual items as well. Interestingly, though, Hearthstone's being included in that, so we might see a BlizzCon-related rare card, possibly involving some kind of Murloc this time around, which will be interesting. I know that they did a thing with the the gnome guy as part of the thing. So if you actually bought into the game and paid real money for it. So this is going to be interesting to see what we'll get in our bag of virtual items this time around. Apart from that, a little bit of controversy has cropped up in everything Star Wars The Old Republic shaped, with the news that the Rise of the Hutt Cartel expansion is now being given free to subscribers. So although the game went free to play a while back, it's they've decided that instead of charging £20 for the expansion, they're actually going to start charging people nothing at all for it. It's just going to be included in the subscription. That creates a bit of a problem to those people who've actually bought it 6 months ago, because they're now saying, well, this sounds a bit strange and a bit unfair and unreasonable to us. So interesting development there. Apart from that, you've had the news about Steam sharing. So if you've got a massive Steam library, there's this huge benefit coming out now where you're going to be able to share games with family and friends. I think you can have up to 10 people in your kind of network of shared games, and it means that you'll be able to share games with them, they'll be able to share games with you, and get much more use out of your library. So that's really the three big bits and pieces. I think that SWTOR is probably going to be the most interesting one for our discussions later, though, because of all of the ramifications it means. I mean, is it a free-to-play game? Is it a subscription game? Is charging for expansions the right approach and stuff like that? And it's caused a huge amount of disruption amongst the player base, with a lot of people feeling that they've been treated a bit unreasonably there. So that's it from me, though. Those are the three kind of big hitters. Back to you, Miz.
Okay, well, let's have the three of us for a moment before we pass over to the delightful Pseudo. And perhaps a quick nudge on your sound as well, Gazim. Pseudo, I think, according to Facebook and Twitter, a couple of competitions.
As a matter of fact, we do. We have two lovely competitions going on right now. One specifically for getting your hands on some EQ Next loot, and one for getting your hands on a beta key for Hearthstone. So what would you like to hear about first? I guess the easiest is to just go in the order I said them. So when it comes to EQ, for those of you who watched last week or caught it after we had put up our recorded show, we have 4 EQ Next cards. These are pop-up cards, and all of them are signed by David Jordson and Terry Michaels, the executive producers of EQ Next. And we are going to be giving away, in today's show, these 4 signed cards to people who have entered our competition today.
Hope you all
And
entered.
yeah, hopefully you entered. Definitely been pushing it out there. So if you got yourself entered, there is a potential that by the end of this night, one of these cards will be yours. And I will reiterate, because it was asked and I did respond to the question, I don't care where you live in the world. If you win, we'll send it to you. So there you go. The other competition that we've got going, we have been lucky enough to get our hands on not 1, not 2, but 3 Hearthstone beta keys, and they're going to be given out in different ways. At the end of the show tonight, some random individual have the ability to get a EU Hearthstone beta key, and yes, I am stressing this is EU. An EU Hearthstone beta key will be given out at some point in the show tonight, and we also have a Facebook competition going for another beta key, and then again tomorrow night in the middle of some random play by Mizpa on his Twitch stream while he's playing Hearthstone of all things, he's going to be giving out another beta key. So you have a chance tonight, you have a chance through our Facebook competition, and you have a chance through Twitch stream with Mizpa tomorrow night. For those of you who have not done so yet, please make certain that you go to twitch.tv/Mizpa and favorite his channel, because that'll help and put you into the right place to get a beta key. So.
Okay, well, with all said, what are we going to talk about tonight? Yes, we will be returning. Oh, firstly to Pseudo.
Who seems to be stealing the camera a lot today. I'm going to just want to point out in response, we did check to see if the keys were usable in the US and the EU, and we have actually been informed that if you use the keys that we give out on the US side of things, it'll take the key no problem, but it will not let you log in and play. So in this particular case, the keys that we are giving away for the Hearthstone beta are EU and EU only.
And on that note, and yes, we will make sure people do have it. It would be silly to waste one of those rare EU beta keys. What are we going to be talking about tonight? Well, it's one simple, small, little topic, but it's probably the toxic topic. Payment models, because we all know what the payment model needs to be. Yes? And we all completely agree. And there's no dissent. So, let's have an overview, shall we? Gazimov, at high speed, using your vast intellect and your stubble. First, a quick overview of payment models.
Okay, so you have 3 classic MMO payment models. The one that's probably the most common from ye olden times, if you've been playing MMOs for years and years, is the subscription model. You buy the game from off the shelf from your retailer, take it home, you put it in and you install it, and you get something like 30 days of game time included in the box. After that, you're looking at paying a subscription, which would be something like $15, usually about $8.99 or about 12-13 euros a month, give or take. Then you've got the kind of buy-to-play model, as it's known, which is the Guild Wars 2 approach. You pay for the box, but you don't pay a subscription. Instead, the idea is that you would buy items occasionally, things like convenience, cosmetics, and stuff like that, from the item store. And they'll cost, well, it can vary between kind of temporary things, boosts, and stuff like that, onto more permanent and flashy stuff. So you can, the prices can vary. You can put in as much or as little as you like. On the very far end of things, you've got free-to-play games. So this is things like EverQuest 2 nowadays, SWOTOR, Rift, and stuff like that. They might have an optional subscription where you can buy regular conveniences, but most of the time you're going to be looking at being able to play completely free of charge and then just buying cosmetic items, convenience items, long-term boosts and stuff like that from the item shop. Also things like unlocks for character slots and stuff like that, and inventory space and so on. Usually find that the difference is if you pay a subscription in those free-to-play games, you get all those as standard for a monthly fee, or you can pay a little bit extra and unlock them permanently without having to continually pay for it. Those are the 3 main types, but you've also got a couple of hybrids creeping in. One of those is the kind of subscription hybrid, which is favored by Eve and Wildstar, where you can pay for your subscription either in-game by actually buying one off the auction house, or you can pay for it using real money. And if you want, you can pay for like more than one subscription and put the item onto the auction house for someone else to buy, which sounds like a great idea because it means that you can then pay for it and someone else can earn it in game. You've also got the kind of pay-to-win variant of the free-to-play market, which is actually what Hearthstone uses. The more money you invest in the game, the better you're likely to be at it, because you're more likely to get more powerful items. So yeah, I would call Hearthstone pay-to-win, just like any trading card game. But for trading card games, it's not a huge problem. For other games like MMOs, PvP games, stuff like that, it can be a much bigger issue. But yeah, so that's quickly it. So you've got three main categories. You've also got a bit of kind of hybridization and a bit of dilution happening in there to kind of muddy the waters a bit. Okay, so back to you, Miz.
Okay, so there's the landscape, and a quick sanity check, because I'm getting a little bit of feedback that my sound is breaking up. So let me know in the channel, guys, and I'll try and fix if that is indeed still happening. We've got a couple of ways of doing things, yet the community gets very, very split. Some people like to know they're paying for a game, they've got everything, they're not going to get nickel and dimed. Strong community. Yet others seem to think that, hang on, well, why should I pay $15 a month to play this game? Because there are 15 games I want to play. My friends are in different places. I can't possibly pay $100 a month, so why shouldn't people earn my money? And those are probably the two contrasting schools of thought, yet neither of these things are quite as simple as they sound. We, of course, run into the horrible idea, or I think it's a horrible idea, of pay to win. So where does this pay to win gremlin come from? Pseudo.
Well, that's the thing. You know, you say that it's a pay to win. I look at it as free to pay. You have a game that is produced and they sit there and they talk about, hey, you can download the game for free, you can play it, you can experience everything that it has to offer. However, the reality is every single time you turn around, you are actually getting hit with, hey, you need to purchase this. Hey, you need to purchase this. Now, you said specifically, Gazzy, that you were talking about convenience items and things like that, like, say, extra character slots or extra bag slots or what have you. However, the free-to-play model and the separation between free-to-play and I guess you could say why it seems to be so popular, I think it actually comes from not necessarily the matter of, oh, I've got like 15,000 games I'm playing this month because my friends are all over the place, etc. I think it actually comes from the fact that we are moving into a time where some people feel that if they're paying a subscription, they have to give up everything else in their life because they have paid to play this game through a subscription. Now, if you just do a random microtransaction to say, oh, get a new character slot, you don't feel as if you have to dedicate 24 hours of your time to that game. Now, to be fair, if you think about it, you're actually, if you pay, I don't know, we'll say 15 a month for a game subscription, that's actually like, what, an hour, 2 hours worth of quote-unquote work and a job. So I'm kind of curious if there's actually a gamer psychology that is coming about that I'm actually now really wondering if it actually came about because of the models that have been produced, or if the models had actually been produced because this new mentality is coming out of people saying, well, I don't want to play due to time or what have you, but if I just say, oh, I don't know, buy the game like Guild Wars 2, and I really don't have to worry about paying extra, I can still do everything, yada, yada, yada. I'm wondering if that's actually, you know, chicken egg kind of thing.
Okay, so there's two things here. First of all, with subscription models, yes, there's quite definitely a kind of viewpoint that people really want to try and get the maximum value they can out of the subscription. If you're paying for something on a monthly basis, you really want to make sure that you get as much for your $15 or £9 a month. So that's one point, and I completely agree with you there. However, on the other end of things, with the free-to-play stuff, you've kind of got two elements of it. You've got one issue where you've got people who are saying, okay, if you want to unlock a new character slot, then that's going to cost you £5. If you want to get a additional XP boost, then that's going to cost you £2 and stuff like that. So if you want to be able to progress at any decent rate, you find you're kind of being nickeled and dimed a bit, and that's one issue. What I really have a problem with is the whole pay-to-win thing, where someone says, I will sell you a sword of noob slaying for £10, and you think, okay, £10, I can have this sword of noob slaying, I can go and decimate other people in PvP. And then someone else turns around and says, I will offer you a one-shot kill mega cannon of noob slaying that will AoE destroy everyone for £100. And you think, do I want that £100 noob slaying cannon? And you think, and that's the kind of road you end up going down, where people say, I'll create new, bigger and better things to make you win more efficiently at this game, which is crap. And it's a really big thing in Asia. Don't get me wrong. People love this stuff in places like China and stuff like that. But over here in the West, it's like, no, we value our skill more than our ability to pay through the nose.
Well, first off, I want those 2 weapons. I really want a sword of noob. That noob slaying, it just sounds like a really fun thing to have. However, I'm going to throw to you, Mizpah, a question based on what Gaz has just said. And please, by all means, Gaz, if you've got an answer to this, throw this out. I want you, Mizpah, to explain to me if you think at any point in time in a free-to-play game where you have any kind of shop at all, it is possible to have that game be not pay-to-win.
Oh boy, I know exactly why Pseudo has picked this topic and bounced it to me. I hate them, I dislike them, I loathe them, I'm responsible for breaking down the door of them in the morning at 2 AM and setting fire to the contents. They have no place in a game in which I'm prepared to waste my time. Personal opinion, and possibly a strong one. Why is that? It's because the line that someone needs to cross to generate an in-game is absurdly slim. I'm very happy to compete on a raid arena, hopefully in a slightly better fashion, and win and lose. Top of the pile, end up at the bottom of the pile. But I want that to be because and the things I might do. And it's little things. Oh, let's have an XP leveling. Pretty innocuous, yeah? A little bit of XP, just an hour, go a bit faster. I don't have much time these days. I have more time. It just lets me keep up with them. That's harmless, yes? But what about the group of players that feed off those way through to endgame? And they get there sooner than other people. What happens if they then get to unlocks and dungeons first? Gear first? What if they get into some raids first? What if they qualify to get some PvP ranks that give them some weapons through in-game achievement? Every single step on that ladder has been aided by the shop. So no, I will take an awful lot of convincing that any shop has the capability to be simply cosmetic. Gazimov, thoughts?
Hold on one second before you go too far. We're being informed that you're skipping, Mizpah, and it's difficult for people to follow what you're saying because you are skipping. So I wanted to just throw it out there that you may have made some points that people want to make comment on. However, it might be a little difficult for them to make comment when you're kind of skipping voice-wise. I don't know if your camera's skipping. No one's mentioned that, but yeah, there you go.
So, in terms of responding to your points, Miss, I think that there is a little bit of an issue with kind of the rate of progress that you're talking about. So, how fast can people progress through the game? I think that there's 2 things that we need to kind of draw a distinction in. So, the items that we typically see in things like World of Warcraft, so things like pets, mounts, and stuff like that, they're all fine because you won't be able to progress faster because you've got a crawdad following you around. Yeah? I think that in terms of certain items like XP boosts, I can kind of see your point to an extent, but it depends entirely on how that game is developed. So, for example, Guild Wars 2, yes, it has XP boosts, but it does not have raiding. The competitive structure is very much based around arena PvP. And being the first to level 80 doesn't really matter, because it's much more dependent on your skill and your ability. You may have a minor advantage in the first month, if that, but in terms of the long-term progress, that advantage will disappear very, very quickly. What I will say is that if your game involves kind of end game raiding and stuff like that, particularly where you're talking about things like Wildstar is trying to focus on, where you've got competitive raiding, competitive PvE for the first time that we've really seen since WoW, and people not fighting for server firsts just once, but server firsts each week, then I can kind of see where you're coming from. And I think that in that particular instance, the item shot's going to be much more carefully controlled if they decide to go down that route at all. But that said, I don't see the harm in having things like cosmetic items, things like mounts and pets. I don't see the harm in having things like housing elements that are cosmetic items. And I even go so far as to say I don't think there's probably much harm in convenience items such as additional character slots and stuff like that being available from the item store, rather than having to go through the rigmarole of account maintenance and stuff like that. Being able to buy an account, an extra character slot, and then potentially chuck it up on the marketplace for someone else to buy. I think that's a pretty neat idea if they decide to go down that route. What do you think, Suda?
I think it really, 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 really depends. I think you're absolutely right on the fact that it depends entirely upon how a game is built. However, when you start dealing with any advantage that can be given to a player through a cash shop in a free-to-play model, specifically avoiding things that have a subscription base, or you have something that limits people. Prime example, things like DCU Online, Tor even, which of course we will get into, but they have limitations that actually inhibit gameplay. So when you have a cash shop, if you want to say put dyes into the cash shop, let's just say that's just a cosmetic thing. Yeah, you might think that's just a cosmetic thing. However, it could actually be deemed unfair if the items that people are dyeing or the certain colors are actually models that should be gotten through gameplay. Be it PvP or raiding or whatever. Now, in my personal opinion, I am struggling to find a free-to-play model that doesn't, one, punish the players, two, punish the developers, which is something that a lot of people forget about. When we talk about payment models, everyone's all, oh, me, what I have to do, what I get from it, etc. People tend to forget that there are developers who need to feed their families, or the developers need to get a paycheck to ensure that they can continue content. I mean, this is specific for MMOs. We're the ones asking them to bring the rate of cadence up even more with their development cycles. So, I'm looking for a free-to-play model that actually does not hinder the developers, punish the players, and I don't think there is one. I really don't. Someone has actually said, Prozio said League of Legends has the best free-to-play model. I struggle seeing MOBAs as a real honest-to-goodness MMO. However, I have actually spoken to some people over the past week about League of Legends in particular's model, and a lot of them say that they do feel that they're behind the actual play curve because they're not paying money in. So in that case, the latest flavor of the month champion is not something that they can purchase, therefore they feel left out. So in that case, there's some weird things there, but yeah, I can't find a single model that I can agree with at all when it comes to free-to-play.
So let me catch up on the League of Legends element to begin with. I think League of Legends is a fair example of decently managed free-to-play, because you've got two options. You can either pay money for the particular champion that you want, or you can play matches, earn points, and work towards the champion that you want. Usually payments are for cosmetic items such as particularly unique skins and stuff like that. So, but the kind of key thing is that it forces you, rather than to buy everything and feel that you are obliged to buy everything, to spend some time, go through the free champions that rotate regularly and work out what kind of gameplay suits you. I prefer, in League of Legends, tanky kind of roles that go up on the top lane and kind of do damage and be fairly brutal. And I tend
You all know his play style for League of Legends now, so now you know how to beat him.
so that's my preference, and it's a typical top lane kind of strategy. And I pick and choose the heroes based around that, so that kind of makes it fine for me. In terms of free-to-play and MMOs, I think Guild Wars 2 is a very, very good example. I also think that games that have come out intending to be free-to-play are great examples. So things like PlanetSide 2 was, again, a good example because you could play free-to-play. You weren't completely hindered because you could find a good group and you could still earn experience and unlock stuff without having to pay in. But once you'd found your niche, you could then invest in it and kind of develop that particular class out further. So if you wanted to play the medic guy, you could do, and if you wanted to play the snipery type, then you could do that, and you could really kind of focus in on that. And if you wanted to spend all your time flying around in an airplane, then you could really focus in on that. I think there are games, however, which are typically conversions, so things like SWOTOR, things like Rift, and so on, which have kind of done it clumsily, and they've said, okay, we're going to take everything that you've had and then start putting penalties in place for things that you would normally expect to have. Things like will grant people who don't subscribe less XP gained from kills, and will grant them less income from kills, and will reduce their inventory space, and all this kind of stuff. And it really gives the whole thing a really sour taste, because you think, well, hang on a minute, I kind of expect these things as standard, and I kind of treat them as rote, and you're starting to become really onerous with your kind of mechanics. And I can see why they desperately want to earn money, but I think Guild Wars 2 does it better by saying, here's the baseline that everyone kind of has, and if you want to go beyond that baseline, then it's a case of not paying a subscription, but saying, I want this item, this item, this item, this item. And that's why I think it does it well. I think that it's going to be, I think that this whole mechanism of doing MMO conversions is a bad thing, and people really need to kind of stop doing it because it just creates bitterness. I mean, if you look at SWOTOR, it's just gone from bitter argument to bitter argument to bitter argument, and it's just been a non-stop disaster story. It's a shame because I really enjoy some of the content. I think some of the storytelling is absolutely fantastic, but they're just doing a fantastic job at regularly pissing off their player base.
Well, there is something to be said for punishing of the players. That's one of the things that, like I was saying, I have a problem with. However, I think, I don't know, first off, Mispa, can you actually talk without breaking up for everybody listening?
Let's find out. Now, is that behaving, or are my dulcet tones still getting stripped into little tiny pieces? Gonna pause for a second to let the channel respond. Meanwhile, as a quick heads up, what I'd like to do here, shortly we'll take a quick 5-minute break at about the half-hour mark, and I might even switch around some audio. But what I'd love to do is talk about 2 things post-break. Firstly, I'd like to bounce into some of the big-name games and talk about what they do right, what they do wrong, and we'll possibly have to revisit the transition from sub to free-to-play for SWTOR there. And there's a ton of very good topics in the channel that I really want to pick up on. So, as we're sounding fine, I think we will just take that very brief break. And a question to the channel, guys, and we'll pick up on it in just a moment. If there are cosmetic items in shops, and that the consensus is that cosmetic are okay, let's have some examples. Because all too often people tell me, this is cosmetic, this is fluff, this is gamer food. Yet I find many of those examples cross a personal line. So, gonna leave you with that thought, gonna instigate a 5-minute break. We may drop the stream and restart it. Please don't go away. I look forward to catching you all in just a moment. Not yet. They can hear you, or they can hear me, and now they can see a pseudo.
We've had some rather interesting people make some suggestions to your question, Mispa. and I will be happy to recap them, throw them your way, and then let you take the reins and yee-haw with them.
And you may just briefly repeat part of your intro, Pseudo. Is that now working? We had your delightful visage, but not your dulcet tones.
I look excited. I am excited. I'm giving away free stuff. Oh, you can see part of my cam on Gazzy's side. Hi, Gazzy, or wherever side you're on. Hi. Okay, so now you can hear me. All right, as a recap, at the end of the show, and apparently we didn't get all the gremlins, but I kind of thought we did, but in this case we didn't. At the end of the show, we're going to give away the EQ Next cards, and we'll also be giving away the EU Beta Key for Hearthstone. Well, one of the three. Remember, we do still have a Facebook competition going. If you don't win tonight, get involved in that one, and we're also going to have one given away during Mizpa's Twitch stream of playing Hearthstone tomorrow night as well. So, with those things in mind, I will again repeat. We've had some delicious answers from our audience about the question you asked with the shop, Mizpa. And I would love to recap a couple of them, then throw it your way, and then let you take it and, as I said, giddy up with it. But now people know what this hand motion was for, although I'm sure people had really curious ideas. But no, it was just me saying giddy up with the actual topic. So, shall I throw the answers to you?
Yes, let's. And let's take this into a three-way conversation.
Okay, so some of the suggestions that have been made, things like mounts, things like pets. There has been concepts thrown about like RP clothing.
Okay,
which I have my own opinion on. However, the last thing, which is an interesting one, changes in your spell effects and particle effects and things like that.
Okay, let's take them from the beginning. Mounts. Mounts. A different sort of mount, a different style of mount, no problem whatsoever. Mounts at the same speed with the same capabilities, no problem whatsoever. Getting a mount significantly earlier than someone else because you have a larger wallet, not for me. Getting a mount that can fly when everyone else is on land, not for me as well. Getting a mount that's 10% faster, if you earn it, hell yeah. If you buy it, no. Again, not for me. So that's mounts. Pseudo. What else was on your magic list?
Pets.
Cosmetic
sort of
pets.
like what Gazzy had been saying.
Cosmetic pets are fine. If the pets have an ability that interacts with another player, beyond, let's say, I don't know, make someone shriek, throw their hands in the air and run away because it's a mouse, it all depends on how it impacts on someone else's day. If it's just a visual, by all means have all the pets in the world, but if the pets start to affect mechanics, or if having 75 gremlins following you means you can't be targeted in the battleground, again, not so much for my part. RP clothing, I believe you mentioned. Absolutely
yes,
fine, in my personal book, with one exception. And the exception to me is if you're able to mimic the achievements of someone else visually, isn't that degrading someone else's sense of achievement? If to get the awesome shoulders of I look like a banana, not mentioning any particular class in a historic game, and someone else could buy them, what about the people that put the effort in to earn them? Is that quite fair?
Of course it's not fair. Anytime where you can do anything within a cash shop that literally makes somebody else's achievements that they could work hard for in a game less because, hey, I had the extra $20 this month that I could throw into this, it's honestly, in my opinion, unfair and cruel. Now, we've had someone throw out here, and we were discussing it before we had the stream cut off, and I'll hold off on the particle effects, and with the roleplay clothing, I'm kind of iffy on that because the whole transmogrification thing that they've got going in WoW and some other things, I have some opinions on it, but I don't want to go too deep into that because that's sort of sideways. But someone wants to discuss XP boosts and gold boosts or gold drop boosts and things like that. Now, this is an interesting thing because in WoW, you do have pandas who have the ability, what is it, like once for 30 minutes every hour or something, boost their experience. But again, you're in a subscription model. And then if you have a free-to-play game like, say, Guild Wars 2, where you can have your XP drop, or you can buy it in the cash shop, even though it can still drop randomly inside the game itself, if you have certain lockboxes or whatever, you know, someone wants you to deeply go into that.
Well, let's touch on two then. Let's do first of all the different abilities of different classes and characters. Let's say pandas. And we'll certainly get to your thoughts on this in a moment, Gazimov, as well. If anyone paying the subscription or anyone playing the game on an equal footing can make the choice to be that character, the concept of a character that's overpowered, that has a different ability that people call overpowered, and perception is a wonderful thing versus reality here sometimes. But if everyone has the ability to make the same choice, either without reaching for their wallet, or every wallet is being reached for on an equal level, I don't have an issue with that. It's when someone gets the option to buy something that someone else can't do, or a choice that someone else doesn't have. Again, to me, that crosses the line. Now, somebody mentioned chests. Someone had to bring it up. I do not want to run around a landscape and be tripping over chests. There is a very small murloc and it drops a chest. There is a very small gremlin, gnoll, wolf, giraffe, didgeridoo. I don't mind what it is. And they all seem to be carrying chests and they all want to drop them. Wonderful. I don't know where they had them, but they're all over the place. Now, with all these chests, that's fantastic. I'm a big burly adventurer, I've got a huge sword, and I can't open a wooden box. Instead, I need a magic key. Yet, lo and behold, no one in the world has any keys. Oh, wait. Apart from that shop over there that uses a different currency than the rest of civilization. So, this shop exists as a mechanism to goad people towards an interactive experience with their credit card. And I don't like it. I really don't like it. I know people will say, hey, you can drop a key in the real world. Yes, you too can kill 14,376 zebras and possibly see one key. That doesn't quite work for me. Gazimov, your thoughts?
Okay, so in terms of the actual kind of gambling box things, these exist in a lot of free-to-play games, and I kind of get what you're talking about. What generally tends to happen is that you have people...
You're quiet again, Gazi.
Yeah, that's because I'm not enunciating, but there we go. I think that if you're doing a lot of things with regards to things like item boxes and stuff like that, then you've got the one major issue that it's going to become a bit problematic, that you're going to have people who want to open these boxes and say, well, why are these boxes dropping? It feels like it's really stupid. It feels like it's utterly pointless. Why are we having these boxes? I think personally that with things like that, having these kind of gambling boxes, it's probably mostly a waste of time. I don't think that it's I don't really like them myself. People are complaining that they can't hear me. Someone say they can't hear me.
You're apparently very quiet.
I can't turn this up anymore. It doesn't go any higher. It's like,
put it up to 11.
It's at 11. It's like there is no. It's like I can't go up. I've run out of prime numbers. This thing does not go any higher. It's like I could crank this thing up. It's like I will eat my microphone and I still can't be heard.
You'll be pleased to know that was screenshotted, guys. You'll be able to see it on MMOBuff.TV at some point soon.
So I will literally hold my microphone in my hands if I have to, because people can't hear me. But there we go.
I hear you so much better now. I think perhaps this is the way you should do it in the future. Go on.
And you're so joking, and I can tell you're so joking.
No,
I
am being perfectly serious here.
Anyway, back to the topic at hand. So the main issue is around item boxes. If you've got a system which is basically saying to someone, you can gamble on this box and it might have something interesting, it might not have something interesting, and if you want to open the box, you've got to pay money to open it. You have a similar thing which they've brought into Firefall, or bringing into Firefall, where you can buy tokens to put into they call it a vending machine, and that will give you a chance at getting an item. And it will give you something like a rare or epic item. And if you can get regular tokens in the open world, but if you get golden tokens from the item shop, then you stand a better chance of getting something really impressive from the item store. I have issues with those kind of things because it's basically telling people pay money for items, pay money to get the stuff, and it's not even insert coin, receive bacon. It's insert coin, possibly receive mediocre bacon. In fact, you'll receive regular scrappy like back bacon that they sell in the States, which is this horrible, miserable strip of pink, instead of like the beautiful Danish.
Dare you? How
and
dare you?
and if you're really lucky, you might get an epic piece of sweet cured Danish back bacon that's like as thick as a pound coin and all of that stuff, like almost bordering on gammon. But you get the idea, yeah? I find that absolutely against the idea of an MMO. I think that chance should be dependent on how much you play the game rather than how much you reach into your wallet. That's my opinion.
Here's the thing. We're talking now about when it comes to MMOs, we want players to be able to play. We kind of all have the opinion. We want to have the ideal thing. We pay once. I mean, in fact, this was actually mentioned by Nick Knuckle, who is the lead developer for Elder Scrolls Online. He's discussed, the ideal game situation is you pay, 60 quid for your game. You never have to pay anything anymore. You have access to all future content updates. You have access to absolutely everything. You never have to worry about it again. Expansions are taken care of. There is no subscription fee. Voila, that's supposed to be the quote-unquote dream of a gamer. The problem is when you start dealing with an MMO, we're talking about being able to pay salaries to developers so that they can ensure that there is content, that servers do run, that things do exist. So you don't have that, we'll say like within Final Fantasy, you have that initial landfall of, oh my God, everybody wants to play the game, but nobody can log in kind of situation versus, oh my gosh, everyone's paid the game, but now we have no income coming in to actually support the game. So we can sit here and discuss forever what should be in a cash shop, what shouldn't be in a cash shop. What I want to know is there actually a model out of all of the different models out there where you can ensure that, one, your developers are getting paid, two, your players aren't feeling short-circuited, and three, there is not that sense of punishment to a player or a developer. Now, one could easily throw out their subscription model's the way to go, because people will actually take responsibility for their characters when they have to do that versus in free-to-play.
A little more.
Just willy-nilly. Okay, a little more. Fair enough. But is that the only model that actually guarantees that? And, I'm going to throw this out there now. We discussed it briefly, and I'm just going to throw it out there. If people want to do free, if people want to have a free-to-play game, what concession is the player willing to make? Are they willing to treat it like Google does, where when you use Google that you are going to have AdSenses coming your way, etc.? Are you willing to do that like Hellgate London had actually considered? They didn't really follow through with it completely, but they had advertisements for, products in today's day and age in the game. You had advertising built into the game. Would players be okay with that as a concession to guarantee free-to-play constantly, as long as you're going to be bombarded by Pepsi, Coke, other soft drinks are available? Right. Where is that line?
I have some thoughts on this one. First of all, I think that if you are making a game that has advertising, then it has got to be completely free-to-play. But it's going to be a case of you can't really make that a sustainable thing. It's just not possible. It's a lot of people will complain that you just
grab the
can't
mic.
Fund it. A lot of people complain that if you do a free-to-play game and it's got advertising in it, it won't actually make any money from it, because people go. People complain that it doesn't actually become let me get this right. The problem with, I'm just getting a load of pings and stuff, so I'm going to close that. If people
and
doing
seem
advertising,
to be having problems with the bot, by the way, for our moderators in the chat.
With the bot, okay. So I think that if you're doing advertising, it makes sense when you've got a real world setting. So things like The Sims Online did it in terms of what they were doing. But in terms of a lot of fantasy games, you play them deliberately to get away from real world brands. And I think that they would be a real imposition into that kind of escapism if you wanted to have that. And to be honest with you, I feel quite strongly about that. I think the main issue that people are having in terms of things like content and stuff like that, the main hesitance that people have about things like a subscription is the rollout of content. If you don't push out regular content, people will say, why am I paying a subscription for? And I think a lot of people have been asking this question for a while. I think that if you pay a subscription like that is $8.99 a month, and you think the only content that I am here for are the group of friends that I'm playing with, that's a pretty poor excuse for you to be playing that game when that group of friends can leap on any social network and be in any other game of your choosing with you and paying a lot less. So I think that demanding $8.99 a month and pushing out a content update every 2 to 3 months is terrible. I think that you should really be focusing on pushing out content on a regular basis every 2 to 4 weeks in order to earn that subscription. I think that EVE Online gets away with it because the content is specifically other players, and other players interact with you on a number of different levels, and that's why people play that particular game. I think that games like WoW are really going to start struggling, where people say their pace of content updates, their cadence, does not represent good value, does not represent keeping me interested. They may push out these grand pieces of story and these epic tales and stuff like that, but people aren't interested in they'll subscribe for a month and then they'll go, and that subscription might be they'll buy the expansion, subscribe for a month or two, and then they'll go and they might pop back before the next expansion. And that happens an awful lot. I'm seeing analyst reports saying that WoW's numbers are doing crazy things between expansions at the moment. I think that Guild Wars 2, with their approach in terms of pushing out content every 2 weeks, is a good thing. And I think other firms really need to start emulating that.
Ms., you need to speak on this because we're dominating and not giving you a chance to have any say whatsoever,
Well,
and I think it's unfair.
It's one of those things that everyone has an opinion, and mine is pretty strong down the line of you need to invest in your game, invest in your character, build up your reputation, build up your social grouping, both within the friends you start with and the friends you acquire along the journey, and really put the effort into the game. To me, I've found far more success in a subscription model. Once you have that subscription model, the mentality of the player changes, in my view. I have no issue with the concept of a free-to-play game, but I'm yet to discover an implementation where there's a combination of things, responsibilities for someone's actions in terms of the environment of the game. If my account is free and I can create one again with a click of the fingers, where is my sense of responsibility? I'll create a new character called Noob Cake Sauce and go back into general chat and start shouting profanities, and when I get banned, I'll go and make a new character called La 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 I Hate Murlocs. There's no rationale as to why I shouldn't do that. So I really like that sense of attachment, I like that sense of investment, and I want to put into the world I play and get something back. I want all of my actions and choices to be down to skill and ability, or lack thereof, that's just as fine, and for everyone to be measured and perceived on that basis. Maybe I'm an idealist, maybe it can be done better. So here's what I'd like to do from this point, keeping half an eye on the clock. I'd like to bounce back to Pseudo, and Pseudo, walk us quickly through the EQ competition. Let's have the 4 winners, please.
Yes, okay.
If necessary, let's have the comments they contributed to see what we might be visiting later, if you think that's appropriate. Then we're going to bounce back into the games. We're going to do 60 seconds on the big titles between us. What do they do? How do they do it? What do we think? It's a 60-second challenge per game, guys. You only get a few comments. And then we're going to break back to competitions again. And it's going to be, oh wait, the Hearthstone key that a few people seem to be after. So starting and heading back to competitions. Pseudo.
Yes, I had to actually go back and open up my email so that I could get to all of these gorgeous answers and questions that people have thrown out. Okay, so we had quite a few people send us in questions, and by the way, thank you everyone who has sent in a question that was something other than, so, do you like cheese? Those weren't the kind of questions we were looking for. We're actually looking for things that were really, really in-depth. So the result is that we have 4 winners. Now, we specifically need to check the chat room to make certain that those who are winners are actually inside the chat. It's part of the competition here. So if I announce your Twitter handle, I'd like for you to say hello, because if you're here, I will read your question, and then I will tell you that you have won. It's kind of that simple. So we had our random generator pick random peoples, and we will start out with, as I scroll through all of these things. Here.
This is where I should insert the sound effect of a drum roll.
Wonderful. Okay, so the very first one I have to check to see is Starspun actually in the chat room? Starspun.
Earth calling Starspun.
Actually, can someone actually check the list of people who are here? Because that kind of helps as well.
Woohoo!
Oh, Starspun happens to be there.
Our first
So,
winner.
Starspun. Guess what? You get assigned one of these. Congratulations.
Does Starspun want to pick which one?
Oh, that just makes it too complicated and takes up too much time. No. But basically, what we have from Starspun is an incredibly long question, so I'm not going to go too far into it. But there is a focus on theme park MMO narratives that don't focus on player characters as the hero, and whether or not this can actually be done or not done. And there's a whole lot behind it going into things like WoW, Rift, and things like that. So we will be approaching this question. In fact, we'll probably be hitting a lot of the questions that were sent in. Don't think that we're leaving you out. But Starfun. Congratulations, you're getting one. So the next one on my list is...
I don't know how you spell that. Can we have a spelling of Are you in the channel?
Okay. Is Just Okay Wally in the channel? And what a great name that is. Just Okay Wally.
Don't worry, Wally. It's just okay.
Wally.
Yes, I do know for a fact that we had quite a few people who sent them in who could not actually be here today because they were working, but unfortunately they said, just pass my stuff on. So if Just Okay Wally is not here, I will pick somebody else who is next on the list in the randoms.
Well, we'll do 4, guys, and if we don't, ones we have, we'll hold over and repeat on another week, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so the next person on my list is Baranator. Baranator, are you here? I hope so, because this is a really good question. And I kind of want to point that out. Baranator.
It is a no.
Oh, dear. Uh-oh. Alrighty then. Fair enough. And the next one on the random generator then is Velnox Enigma. Go figure. Actually, I had an Enigmate win. And yes, it was random.
It is a randomizer, I promise.
It is very much so the randomizer. Now, in this particular case, I could sit here and just simply say, yes, this is a very short question. However, again, a very, very high in-depth question that wants to be gone into discussing things like, in this particular case, the EverQuest Next community, and specific the customer support team known as Guides from EverQuest 1, and some other things along that as well. So we have Starspun and Velnox. And do you want to save the other 2 for next week then?
Let's save the other 2. Or do you feel like doing one more?
Oh, we should let the audience decide. Should I give away one more? Should I? And should we just have it picked from randomly from people who happen to be in the channel? I am teasing on that. That's your Hearthstone one. We actually do have many, many questions. So, okay. I'm assuming one more? One more.
Let's do one more.
Okay. In this case, then, I need a random number.
Of course, our bot has already run. Can our wonderful producer do that, please?
Oh gosh, that's a lot of random numbers.
We'll use Kasabian's random number.
We'll use Kasabian's random. Can the bot do a random number?
It can. But it's tuned into the people in the channel, not the people that have entered.
Right, and I want to give credit to the people who've actually submitted questions. So, that's why I was picking one of these. All right, then we're going to go backwards, and we're going to go... Is Aaron Von Magic in the channel?
Aaron Von Magic. Are you in the channel? No, Von Magic, he cast a spell, he disappeared.
Oh, magical Trevor is
So,
what it makes me think of.
We've managed to give out 2 of them. We'll give out 2 more. We'll run the same thing.
I will be in touch. Yes, we'll extend it. We'll extend it till next week. I will be in touch with Starspun and with Velnox to get information. You're going to get these. You are also probably going to get some MMOBuff stickers as well, and some things like that. Stuffs.
And for the people that might now want one of the 2 that are remaining, what can they do between now and next week to try and get their hands on the other 2?
Well, they can do what everybody else has been doing to get involved in this particular competition. Send an email to voice@MMOBuff.TV. Ask us a question. Don't shy. Don't be afraid of asking controversial topics. Just don't ask us simple questions like, do you like Manchester United? We're not here to talk about sports. We're here to talk about games, in particular MMOs, although someone seems to be obsessed with Hearthstone. But yes, we want you to ask us game questions. Ask us questions about developers. We've had some really interesting questions come in about previous developers. People want us to track down the previous people. We've had people asking us about how we feel about the leveling processes in a hierarchical manner. There's a whole bunch of really good questions. Those are the kind of questions we're looking for. Send them in to voice@MMOBuff.TV.
Okay, guys.
And then be here next week.
And girls, robots, androids, other life forms, anyone out there, just so I can't be accused of being selective. We're going to do a high-speed roundup of some MMOs, a little bit of a test. And we're going to bounce to you, Gazimoff, to kick off with. We'll pick some of the big mainstream titles that are out there, we'll relate what we think they're doing, and we'll give them a quick heads up. About 60 seconds a title, guys. And if people want us to talk about a particular game we haven't mentioned, type it in the chat, off we go. We'll start with probably the most well-known of all, Gazimoff. WoW.
Okay. So when it came out, WoW was great in terms of having a fantastic subscription model. It provided a load of content for people to really chew into and some fantastic stuff. And it was really earning its $8.99 a month. Nowadays, it's not so hot. The updates have... I'm just watching Cedar. The updates have kind of...
Get closer to the mic. People are having problems hearing you.
The updates have kind of faded to a crawl, and it's kind of like, this is not worth money anymore. I think that if they are going to keep doing the subscription model, they really need to increase the speed of those updates.
So, World of Warcraft, what they're doing right and what they're doing wrong?
Let's
Is that
try
the
it.
question?
Well, yeah, let's take that one, or pick a different game. Elaborate on it. Go, Suda.
Well, I'm going to pick the one that was put up by Surya. Ooh, Suirawr. I am horrible at names. I do apologize. However, you want to have Star Wars Galaxies. That is something that I played. It was one of my first MMOs, so I will happily discuss what I think they did right and what I think they did wrong. So in my particular case, you had a subscription model with them as well. You started out, and I think what they did well is they had a heck of a lot of content, And honestly, if you were really into the game, you trying to go after your Jedi in the very first, not expansion, but the very first release of the game, yeah, that was really, really difficult trying to go through all the professions to get to what you need to do. But it was a time thing. You had a lot of people you could be around, and housing. Hello, gorgeousness, absolutely wonderful. When they started bringing about jump to light speed, though, things started to change, and they started making drastic changes to how talents worked, to the actual skill sets involved for the different professions and things like that. And I think they went too far. It seemed like they were not listening to their community at all. And I think that's what impacted them in a negative manner. I think you have to listen to your community if you're a gamer or a developer, game developer. So I think they were right to be subscription and stuff. But yes, go ahead, Liz.
Okay, I'm going to pick another one. I'll elaborate and I'll go SW Tour. Started off as a subscription game. It was the right model for the development intent behind the game at the time, in my view. Big game, epic story arc, trying to bring this new fourth pillar of story into a game. And the leveling experience, well, actually, it was pretty good. It's easy to look back and slate it, but there was some good stuff in there. I hate leveling, but it wasn't awful. However, the problem came when you got to endgame, because it was kind of lacking. I open this door, I look under this rock, is the endgame hiding there? Oh wait, no, maybe it's around the next corner. Or maybe it isn't yet implemented. Bit of a problem when you hype a game for months, you run around the game with a guild, you kill everything there is to kill, and you have nothing else left to do. And if you don't want to level a second, a third, a fourth, and a 70-second character, well, you tend to leave. And if you've left and it's a sub, there's a barrier to entry if your experience of the game is that it wasn't very good. That's a bit different to, I've been playing it for 3 years, I'm taking a break, I'm trying something else, hey, new expansion, I'll come back. This is simply a case of, once you get to endgame, sorry guys, the game wasn't very good in my opinion. So then they go free to play, wonderful. Let's go back and explore the game. Hey, I've got my great shiny armor we got from raiding last time. Oh, wait, it's all in my bags. Oh, hang on. I now need to buy a license to wear the armor that I previously managed to earn. Bye. Let's pick another game. Gazimov.
Okay, so I think that there have been a number of different MMOs which I would kind of gripe about. I think the main one would be The Secret World for pretty much the same kind of reasons. It started off with a subscription-based model and then went towards free-to-play. And I'm kind of getting really wary about these post-launch conversions. I think it's become quite clear over time that if you're going to launch with free-to-play, then fantastic, but you need to really go for free-to-play. If you're going to launch with a subscription model, you really need to go for it. The Secret World started off, it failed to attract the number of users that it needed to sustain itself, and so ended up switching to free-to-play. I think that since then, the speed of updates has declined, which is a really real shame if you're trying to promote a kind of story-driven MMO, because you need to continue that story. It's still, when they produce stories, they're some of the best in the industry. They're really, really immersive and they're really atmospheric, and I would recommend it to anyone. But I think that it's a case of their ambition was greater than their business acumen, and I think that's a terrible shame.
Okay, let's do one more and move back on to Hearthstone. An interesting one that's coming around the corner that we know many of us have our collective eyes on. Wildstar, and potentially an interesting hybrid. Pseudo, let's have your thoughts.
Okay, this is an interesting concept to me because I had never been really introduced to the Eve-Plex system because I avoided Eve. However, I've started playing Eve after playing Valkyrie, and now I'm getting into Eve. And whole nother story. I'll have my stream set up. You can laugh at me in the future. That's kind of fun. However, Wildstar has made the decision to do a very similar model. They have your subscription-based model, and they've got cred. Now, it's interesting to me that they're trying to let people, or they're trying to maintain the model of, we want our players to play the way they like, which means they're constantly working on end game output for rating. They're still looking at role play. I think that's going to be a very difficult one in any time of gaming or type of online gaming when you start going into role play where there are other elements like PvP or PvE or anything else like that. They're trying to cover all the bases. They're trying to do everything. But to do it, they've decided to go subscription. They have the ability to pay in-game currency to get your subscription point, which I think is a good thing. I think, however, I have heard people actually discussing that they think it's going to be bad because there's still discussion about a shop or something, but I'm not certain. You'll have to correct me on that one.
Okay, so in terms of the WildStar cred model, I think that it's good in some respects. I think that it's going to be very egalitarian in terms of being able to give people access to the game no matter what. I think they will still have this whole thing about needing to earn that subscription price, and people only go so far. They need to have a reason to stay in the game and a kind of motivation for doing all that kind of stuff. I think that if you've got that, if you've got the regular content, then fantastic. But the other issue is, how do you get people able to afford to buy that cred off the marketplace? Will they use dungeons and grind their way to getting that money? Will they use PvP and get rewards from arenas to do that? Will they do crafting and create items to sell to other people? I think all of those should be viable so people can play the content they enjoy but still put money towards it. But I also think that you need to make sure that you've got a great way of keeping money flowing around that marketplace rather than going from a kind of like an arena match reward into the player's pocket and then going out to an NPC when they get repairs or buy some arena reward gear or stuff like that. So I think that it's getting that whole kind of rotating economy, which is great in EVE, needs to be present in WildStar in order for this whole thing to work. So,
Ms.?
Okay, well, Carbine looks pretty interesting to me in terms of the approach they're taking. The devil will be in the detail. Should it emerge simply with a cred option as an alternate to a subscription earned through effort, I don't have so much of an issue with that because it avoids the buying advantage perspective. Whether someone is there or not full stop doesn't really impact on someone else's play experience. But if things beyond cosmetics start appearing in that shop down the road, it's slippery slope. It makes me think of Lotro. I now will not log into that game because of the sales pitch every time I try and sneeze. It really, really turns me off. But that's enough rambling and enough wittering. I think it's time to bounce back to something else, but I'm just going to address a quick comment in the channel first. Someone commented, I didn't catch the name, but fair comment. What about all the hype just for a Hearthstone beta key? Is it too much? And we know there's been a bit of controversy around the topic, particularly social media, Blizzard sites, the number of keys versus the number of apps. The best thing I can say here, guys, is we'll be straight up about what we can and we can't do. We have a key to give out now. I think your odds are pretty good compared to, let's say, the main Blizzard Facebook page right now, because in a few moments your odds are going to be 1 in 79 of walking away with an EU beta key. So I don't think that's tragic. There is a separate Facebook competition running. Yes, the odds will be a little bit lowered there because there's more entrants. A couple of thousand at last take. But the more entrants we have, the more ability we have to turn around and say, let's have some more keys, guys. And whereas this isn't yet a promise, this is what is likely to be happening off the back of a conversation I had last week. So with a bit of luck, I'll be able to turn around to the social media streams and say, hey, here's another 10 keys. And what we will do is we will put them into the same pool. So if you have entered on Facebook and we acquire more keys, your entry will count for all of the keys. And that's the best thing that I can do and I can say. And finally, I'm going to be doing another run of laddering on Hearthstone tomorrow, 4 PM to 10 PM British time. Last time 10 PM ended at about 3:30 in the morning, but that's another topic. Twitch.tv/Mizper, and I will be at about, let's pick a time now, 17 minutes past 9. At 17 minutes past 9, I will be giving out another key to anyone who is live in the channel at that point in time. And that's all we can say on the matter. But let's do the Hearthstone key thing. Let's bounce back to Pseudo, let's talk to our wonderful producer, and we're going to use Nightbot to trigger a winner. Pseudo.
Yeah, okay, sure. Hi, everybody. I don't know why you're throwing it at me. You're the one with the obsession. So yes, okay. As a reminder, This is for EU. I do apologize, but we have actually checked, and while the US one can accept these keys, you would not be able to play. So stress, 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 EU. So please keep that in mind. You need an EU Battle.net account, I should say. That's just the bottom line of it. We're going to pick from the people who are currently in the channel. Fingers crossed to everybody. Pray that Nightbot is amazing and does some crazy things. We will be verifying that people will be able to actually get the key by having people friend through Battle.net to the Mizpah.
And then you get to play me on the stream.
And then you get to play against Mizpah. Good
So
luck.
so we can prove we do actually give out real keys.
Exactly. So, yeah, all I can do is...
Kasabian,
Kasabian, are you
over
there?
to you. Now, any moment now, Kasabian should be able to trigger a magic button, and Nightbot will declare a winner. And if the winner is one of the mods or one of the MMOBuff.TV crew, we will redraw it. Dushan!
Dushan!
You Dushan! You Dushan! You
Dushan! Are you
Dushan!
there?
Dushan!
Ooh.
Dushan has to respond. If Dushan does
Dushan
not
has
respond,
responded.
Dushan has
They have
responded.
responded.
Oh, ho, ho, ho.
Ooh.
Dushan, are you from the EU? Tense pause. Has the key gone? Has the
It's
key
like an
gone?
auction.
And up next in the block is Dushan, and is Dushan from the EU. As we look in the channel, the names continue to scroll past very, very fast, and my names get really, really confused as I try and pick up on what's happening in the stream, and it's really difficult because I'm talking very, very far too fast. I haven't seen Dushan yet respond to take that he is actually in the EU, and I need to breathe.
Yes, you should breathe.
It's
Wow.
useful. Yes,
And
yes,
you
you're in
are
the
in the
EU, and you're there. Great.
Okay.
Dushan, what I'm now going to do is, if that's your user ID, I'm going to send you a message. The message contains my Battle.net ID, and I'm going to ask you to friend me. You can create a free Battle.net account, or you can use an existing game one, should be easier. And once I have your friend request, I will be messaging you back the Hearthstone EU beta key. I think that is the fairest way we can do it. For future reference, guys, do people think the way we've done this and the way we've explained it is reasonable? And I particularly mean the following up to make sure someone's real and not a bot and is in the EU and all that stuff. It's a few
And then
hoops to
playing
jump
against
through.
them.
But is that a fair way for us to do it?
Don't forget, we do still have 2 more keys to be given out. And depending on how things go, we might have more.
You're going to get a PM from me on Twitch in just a moment, Dushan. Let me see. In fact, I'm going to try and do this while I'm talking. So, Gazimov, say something interesting.
More.
Actually, what I was just going to say is this is a great time for us to say to our producers who at the end of the show take care of everything and do amazing things for us and say, we'll be cutting now.